everyone. Welcome to the Elixir Kitchen. Welcome back. We have a super exciting class for you today. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jeremy Capone. I'm the wellness chef for the Cancer Rehabilitation and Survivorship Program, and I am joined, as always, by Stephanie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Gladman, and I'm the registered dietitian. Welcome. For today's class, we have exciting things. So because it's summertime and most people are gearing up or already using the barbecue, we've got a few great recipes that will use the barbecue as a tool to cook, but we'll also incorporate some of those tips and tricks of when you're experiencing appetite loss. So I just want to preface by saying that appetite loss can happen for a variety of different reasons. So it might occur because someone is experiencing GI issues, so maybe they're having tummy trouble, or they're really fatigued, or maybe it has to do with pain or anxiety or stress. Sometimes loss of appetite for some people can come about through depression. So I always like to say it's really important to get your health team in the know about what's going on, because there can be other ways to help with appetite loss. And certainly certain foods that you eat or the way that you're eating, like the timing and the frequency, might help with that as well. So our first recipe is primarily geared for those who are experiencing appetite loss and really just don't have the kind of the urge or craving to have something that has a lot of flavor. So we figured that we would make something that was very, very plain as a base, and then whatever you wanted to add on top could be something that can be helpful. The other thing to note is that we want to try to make every bite count. So whenever you don't feel like eating, so you might be thinking like, oh, when a certain time ago, I might have had 2 or 3 servings bigger than I can actually have right now. So basically that appetite loss is the inability or the urge or desire to eat. And so eating more frequently and smaller meals or snacks can be helpful. So our first recipe is a flatbread, and I will let Jer lead us through it.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. So we have a great recipe for you today, and this is something that we're going to be grilling on the barbecue. Now, I'm inside, obviously, so we'll be using an indoor grill pan. So the same techniques would apply. But I'm going to show you a few other tips on how to safely grill indoors as well. So for this flatbread, now I'll say as well, and I'm sure staff will agree that in its easiest sense, you might just buy a flatbread and heat it up and top it with whatever you want, and that's probably going to be the quickest, most convenient way to get a small meal or snack put together. But for, this is a cooking class, so we want to show you a few options. And this is a flatbread from scratch that you can make from scratch. I love it because you can add whatever flavorings you want. So if you want it super plain, super simple, like Steph mentioned, you can do that. If you want to include a little bit more flavor, a little bit more punch, you can do that as well. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to just angle the camera down so you can see my cutting board here. Awesome. And really, really simple, easy recipe. What we're using is some flour, right? So 1.5 cups of flour. Now for the flour, this is completely up to you, right? So if you want to include, whole grain flour, maybe a spelt flour, you can definitely do that. But like Steph, I know you talked about, if you're experiencing GI issues, you probably want to go for a plain, like all-purpose, right?
Totally. So again, like if you're experiencing diarrhea, you'd probably want to have, less fiber in your diet. So opt out of that whole grain, multigrain whole wheat flour, just because that will have more fiber, which might irritate your tummy issues a little bit more. But for those who feel okay, it's always good to incorporate that fiber. And yeah, I mean, it's just something to your body best, what works best for you.
Now, it is essentially the same whether you're using like a whole wheat or spelt flour or an all-purpose flour. The only difference I'll mention is that if you're using like a self-raising flour, that already has the leavening ingredients in it, so you don't have to add anything else. If you're not using a self-raising flour, let's say if you're using just like plain like a whole wheat or spelt or a different type of flour, you can add like a teaspoon of baking powder to that. That'll just help to make it a little bit fluffier. Okay, so otherwise we have the flour in our bowl, and we're going to add just a little pinch of salt. Okay, and this is where we're going to start incorporating some flavor to this. And for that, again, you can use whatever you like. We're going to add some lemon zest. That's going to give it this really nice sort of punchy lemon flavor to that. And so what I do is just, take a lemon, wash it really well, and then you can take a little fine grater or, these little micro plane rasps, and we'll take a little bit of that lemon zest right off. And then you can also add some herbs to that as well. So they can be dried or fresh. And again, that's just another way to add some extra flavor to this. Now, in this bread, go a little bit more than you think, just because the flavors will get muted a bit. So I go for like almost a good quarter cup of this fresh herbs. And this is just some parsley. I think I had a little bit of cilantro left in the fridge, so there's some cilantro in there too. But again, that's completely up to you. You don't have to add any herbs, any lemon zest. You can just keep it plain as well, right? So that's just an option. So just kind of stir that through a little bit. Pretty simple. And then for the wet ingredients, this is something, it's maybe a little different. We're not making, a 2-day sourdough here. This is not super complicated. And what we're going to do is add some yogurt to this. And this is just some plain, this is Icelandic yogurt, the skyr, which is, it's just a nice plain yogurt option. It's one of the more high protein yogurts. You can definitely add Greek yogurt as well to this.
Yeah, and so this is a really great way to, like I was saying earlier, make every bite count. So usually your breads, unless you're buying a specialty bread, don't necessarily have that much protein in it. So it might have fiber, carbohydrates, which are great fuel for your body. But when you are not eating that much, because let's say, you don't feel like eating, you do want to make every bite count by having a substantial amount of protein every time you eat. And protein is really useful for building your muscles. It's part of a healthy immune system. It does provide essential nutrients. And again, fills you up and keeps you fueled. So the more protein that you can add with every bite increases the calories and helps provide you with that energy. So this is such a great added ingredient while making your flatbread. Now, if you do experience diarrhea or you're lactose intolerant, you can always opt for a lactose-free version.
Perfect. Yeah, and I added about a cup. So it's about 1.5 cups of the flour to a cup of your yogurt, and then just about a tablespoon of olive oil. And that fat, because the yogurt really doesn't have much fat, that fat is just going to help to create a really nice sort of glossy, shiny flatbread. And that's it. We're just going to stir this up. So again, really, really simple. You can make this, like 10 minutes before you have a meal, or in this case, you can freeze them, and they freeze exceptionally well. So after we grill these flatbreads, you would just pop them in the little freezer bag and freeze them, and then you can just warm them up whenever you want. So it's a really, really nice batch cooking recipe, or meal planning recipe. All right, so as I've incorporated the yogurt into the flour with a spoon, you just kind of get in with your hands, and we're going to just squeeze everything together and give it sort of like a rough knead. Again, we're not making like anything super complicated here, so if you find that it is a bit dry and it's crumbling and it's not coming together, just add a little bit more of the yogurt or the, a little bit of olive oil, even a little bit of water will do. And if it's way too wet and it's sticky on your hands, then just add a touch more flour to help balance that out. But otherwise, again, not super complicated. And so after about a minute of kneading, that's it. We have a really, really nice herbed lemon.
And Jer, can you freeze this? Like, do you need to bake it before? Bake
you can.
Whatever.
You can
or do you freeze the dough? What's the best?
You can freeze the dough at this point. I think it's just easier to grill them now and freeze the flatbreads. Just because to defrost this and then you're gonna have to knead it, it's just gonna take a lot more work and time. It's so quick to cook them that I would cook them first and then freeze them.
Yeah.
All right, so to knead them or to roll them out now, we'll just take like a small, like baseball size amount, like this, and I'll put it, you can roll this on a cutting board. I'm just using some parchment paper just because it makes less mess, it's just a little bit easier. So I'll flatten it out first with my hands, and then I'll cover it with the parchment. And then you can take like a rolling pin or water bottle or whatever you have, kind of roll it out. And I don't want to go super, super thin, but I would say probably like a few millimeters.
Yeah, and what's great about this, I'll say, is that you can add whatever you want to it, right? So you could top it however you would like. Now, again, if you're really experiencing like loss of appetite, maybe you want to stick to something more plain, like especially if maybe you're nauseous or you're vomiting, you want to stick to something more carby and plain. But for others, again, like this is a really great way to add other types of protein. So maybe you add fish or eggs or chicken, right? So we'll give some options later on, but just kind of thinking about what can you top on the flatbread.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can see we've rolled this out here, nice and thin, and I'm just going to add like the smallest, like maybe teaspoon of oil. Now I'm using an oil with a higher smoke point because I'm going to be putting this directly on the grill. So something like a grapeseed oil, canola oil, sunflower, avocado oil, those will all work well. And I'm just using my finger just to kind of spread it around like that. And now this, you can definitely do this in the oven, right? Bake this in the oven. I would bake it about 400 degrees, probably like 8 minutes, just until it firms up and it crisps up a little bit. But this is a really super easy one to do on the grill, and I love doing these on the grill just because they cook up really well and they look pretty cool with the grill marks. So what I'm gonna do is just gently peel this off the parchment, so you can see we have our flatbread, and that's going to go oil side down directly onto the grill. Okay, and now, like I mentioned before, I am using a grill pan. I'm cooking indoors. I don't need a super high heat here, like medium heat at most, and we're going to give it like maybe 2 minutes per side. It does not take long at all. And then just, again, make sure that we add a little bit of oil to the other side because I'm going to flip it because we don't want this sticking to the grill. But it's pretty simple at this point. So 2 minutes, and then it'll release on its own. Once it's sort of had enough time on the grill, it'll release on its own, and then we'll know when we can flip it.
So, and like we said, so what are you going to top it with, Jer? Like, what's the options?
Good question. So I think, yeah, like Steph, like you mentioned, it's, you know, open to anything. I mean, you can treat this like, you know, like any flatbread. You can definitely put like leftover barbecue chicken on there, maybe some hummus. You can just spread some hummus, keep it pretty simple. We're going to add, I've got some like really nice cherry tomatoes here. There's some onion, just because I like some red onion, and I'm gonna throw some avocado on there as well. Avocado being, I think, one of our favorite little calorie fat boosters that you can sneak in, right?
Totally, exactly. So lots of healthy fats in avocados. Great way to boost making every bite count. And what I love about this, I mean, any sandwich, you know, really, or is that when you have, you know, you can make this really part of that balanced eating and a balanced plate. So you've got your high fiber, complex carbs, so that's your fat flatbread. You're adding some vegetables like your tomato. I mean, avocado is a fruit. Well, actually, both are fruit, right? Avocado and because of the seed and pit. But essentially you're getting those nice colors, and then maybe you add some cheese to it, or some barbecue chicken from the night before, like Jer said, to add that protein to it. So you're getting that balanced plate, even though it's not necessarily on a plate, it's on the bread. So just kind of thinking about ways to boost, you know, making that every bite count. And even if you were to like dip it in hummus, that's an amazing way, or any type of bean dip. I know it's not necessarily the season, but like having a hearty soup, right? Like a bean or red lentil type of soup is going to add that kind of component as well. So again, just kind of thinking about ways that you're able to make every bite count. And I particularly love this recipe because of the protein that's added to the flatbread. So that's something that, you know, I always recommend for people. And, you know, when you're not feeling like eating, it's always best to kind of gauge when in the day, you know, you might have more of an appetite. So, you know, maybe that's the morning, or maybe it's later on in the day, and try to use that as the time to get your most calories in. And, you know, on those other times, just making every bite count by having small snacks throughout the day.
Yeah, great point. And so you can see I flipped it, and you have these really, really nice grill marks on this side. And again, you're going to get a lot of those aromas from the herbs and the lemon zest in there sort of coming out. So it's not like your regular, you know, store-bought flatbread or pita. Then that's what's nice, is you kind of customize it, like I said, flavor it up, make it your own, and treat this like, I mean, essentially you're treating it kind of like a pizza. I mean, I don't want to call it pizza, otherwise the pizza police will come after us, but you know, it's a little bit easier. You know, it takes what, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to put this dough together, and you can still treat it the same way, and kind of have fun with the toppings, or again, keep it plain, keep it simple.
And Jer, what if someone doesn't have a like a grill pan like that? Would you do a little I forget the name.
Yeah, so like a saute pan
type of thing, or would you bake it?
Yeah, you can definitely bake it. Baking works, or you can definitely cook it just in the regular saute pan.
Okay.
That'll work really well. Or, you know, again, like I said, outside in the barbecue, same thing. What's nice about this is because it's so thin, it does not take a long time to cook. So, you know, direct heat, medium, nothing too hot because we don't want to burn it. And that's about it. So this had about a couple minutes first side. I'm just going to check this side here. So you can see beautiful grill marks. And again, you can see how thin it is. Like, it's not super thick, but it still has some really nice flexibility to it. which is exactly what we want. So this is ready to go. I'm gonna put that on our board. Steph, you can see that okay?
Yeah, looks great.
Perfect. And then, like I said before, we have some avocado, we have some cherry tomatoes. I might dress the cherry tomatoes with just a little bit, maybe just a little bit of olive oil, just a little touch of olive oil. And again, olive oil is a nice, I guess, another good way to add some extra calories if you're looking to add. There. All right, and we'll top this with some of that avocado.
Yeah, that looks great. Such a good way to get in, like you said, those added calories. So avocado tend to be higher in calories, which, you know, it depends on your specific needs, but especially when you don't feel like eating and, you know, you get that sense, having healthy fats is a really good thing to include. And you could always drizzle this with tons of olive oil. Again, you know, just kind of boosting up the calories to help with your energy needs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So really simply topped it with that. Maybe we'll put a little bit of dried oregano on there.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so getting all those flavors. And again, like, you know, boosting that flavor can also stimulate appetite, right? So, you know, using herbs or spices can help as well. There is no specific, I would say there's no specific, like, you know, there are some foods that will like help your salivation, but there's no one specific food that's going to help boost appetite, right? So it can be tricky, it could be frustrating for some people, but, you know, really being patient and, you know, taking your time, and that's helpful too.
So we had some of this fresh mozzarella.
Oh, nice.
So just put it on top, just like that. And we were talking about it before the show, Steph and I, like, you can definitely throw this in the oven, get that cheese kind of nice and melted, but it's perfect just like this as well. You have this beautiful grilled flatbread. Am I attempting to pick it up? Maybe we'll do like a little close up there.
Nice.
There we go. There's a herb flatbread here. I'll come in with this other view.
Excellent. Cool.
Awesome.
All right.